My sister made a fake obituary for me and sent it to my boss because I got promoted over her. I'm Neve, I'm 34, and I'm a hospital communications manager who spends her days translating crises into sentences that won't light the building on fire. And if you're hearing the cosmic giggle in that job description while I tell you that my own sister emailed a fake obituary announcing my death to my boss and half my department because I got promoted over her, trust me, I hear it too, the universe with its elbows on the table whispering, "So you like crises?" The headline she wrote, because of course there was a headline, was tasteful and horrifying: beloved daughter, sister, and healthcare advocate 34. It had a black border like a tidy funeral program and an earnest serif font as if fonts can absolve you of malice. The first sentence stole my breath without asking. With deepest sorrow, the family announces that our dearly loved Neve Sloan passed away unexpectedly in her sleep. Unexpectedly. In her sleep. I was in a supply closet when I saw it, trying to fix a printer that believes in reincarnation more than paper feeds, and my phone vibrated itself off a shelf with 37 notifications pinging in a row like popcorn. I tapped open one from my boss, subject line, "Oh my god." The body had only the image attached and a line, "What the hell is this?" For 10 seconds I thought I had slipped into some parallel corridor where you become both ghost and PR contact. I called my boss first. That's something you learn in this job. Put your voice where the panic is loudest. "I'm alive," I said. My voice sounded like someone else's. "I can see that," she said, breathless relief snapping like a rubber band, and then, "Neve, what?" "I don't know yet," I said, because the truth didn't have shoes on. "Forward me everything. Don't reply to anyone until I send language." I use language like other people use rope. The second call should have been to security or IT, or my friend in legal who can conjure phrases that make people set down matches. I called my mother. This is the part where you expect me to say we cried. Instead, she answered with the clatter of dishes and said, "I know why you're calling," in a voice that had been ironed flat. "Jessa already told me," she said. "Told you what?" "That look, she sent a thing." As a joke. She said it's satire. My ribs did a little choreography called "Are you kidding me?" "She sent my obituary to my employer," I said. "Satire doesn't have the word interment in it, Mom." To be clear, my sister and I have been tangled since birth. She's 29 and moves through rooms the way music does. First you hear her, then you feel her, and if you're not careful you'll swear your heart belongs to her. She's charismatic and feral and allergic to clocks. I'm the person who shows up with a folder and a protein bar. We were the miracle babies, the two after years of my parents' silence, and I was old enough to remember the doctor saying strong heartbeat like a lullaby when they put Jess's picture on a screen. I was also old enough to notice how quickly the family worship migrated from firstborn savior to the one who lights rooms. When we were kids, I alphabetized the spice rack. She made friends with the pizza guy so he'd slip us extra ranch. Love lived in different muscles for us. We work at the same hospital system. I got hired first in communications, earning my skepticism one press release at a time. Jessa came later into community relations with a job description that reads like a field trip and a selfie stick had a baby. Photo ops, health fair booths, bringing therapy dogs to the pediatric wing, smiling in all directions. She is good at it when she shows up. She is also allergic to "fill out this spreadsheet and please send your receipts." I don't say that to be cruel, I say it because paperwork is where we fight. I applied for a promotion in the spring, Director of External Communications, the job where you sit between the reporters and the sirens and try to make sure the truth wears clean clothes before it leaves the house. I worked on the application like it was a thesis. Jessa applied for a different promotion, Manager of Community Partnerships, even though the posting asked for 5 years of nonprofit management and a track record of supervising staff without making them cry. She has 3. She is an optimist. When I got my congratulations email, I sat on the floor in my office and cried because I have a superstition that joy has to touch something we treat gently. When she got her, we went in another direction. She posted a photo of her coffee on Instagram with a caption about grind culture and God's timing. And then she came to my apartment with a plant and said she was proud of me. We ate noodles and watched a show where everyone whispers in expensive coats. We were good. For 2 days. On the third day, she sent the obituary. She wrote it in the voice you use to hide theft. It was careful and sweet. It used my middle name like an intimacy and calculated the 5 years I ran the hospital's volunteer corps before moving into media. It listed my college correct and my scholarship incorrect and my hobbies baking bread technically true but dramatically overstated. I have burned more loaves than I've birthed. It said I had a fiancé named Caleb. I have no such person, she dated one. It mentioned a charity close to her heart that was hers, not mine. It read like a recipe for attention, equal parts flattery and plausible detail seasoned with grief presented to the inboxes of people who decide if you get to keep your badge. I asked my mother for the truth. Did she brag? I said. Did she confess? Mom sighed. She said it was a joke gone wrong. She said she was making a point about how we only appreciate people when they're gone. That's such a Jessa sentence I could taste the lipstick. She sent it to my boss, I said again, like an incantation that might produce a genie with a restraining order. I know, Mom said small. I told her to fix it. How? I asked. Bake me back to life. I sent my boss a holding statement we could use internally until IT traced the source. We are aware of a false communication circulating about a member of staff, it said, and we are taking steps to address the situation. Please do not share or forward the message. The trick is to say the obvious with your hands open. I called IT. Got it, they said. The email had a free account tied to a cafe Wi-Fi downtown. It was sent at 7:08 a.m. with a VPN that thought it was in Ohio. We'll keep pulling the thread, my friend Cal said. I'm sorry. Is this the wildest thing or barely top 5? Top 3, I said. Depending on if we're counting the time the snake got into the MRI room. Then HR. I didn't want to make it official. I did. I hate this about adulthood, how the correct thing and the painful thing often share a driveway. We need to log it, HR said. You think it's a family member. I know it is. Send me what you have. I sent screenshots with my sister's name blurred because there's a superstition in me that believes if the office knows too much about your fault lines, someone will put a chair over them. When Jessa finally answered the phone, she sounded like she'd been holding her breath underwater. Are you mad? She asked. What flavor of stupid question is that? I said. I'm Neve. I didn't think they'd take it seriously. You wrote survived by her mother Cynthia and sister Jessalyn, I said. You used our mother's name. I changed the scholarship, she said, as if malpractice can be mitigated with synonyms. I was trying to show them how hollow it sounds when we only say nice things after. Whom were you showing? Everyone. It was social commentary. I laughed, a sound like a dropped tray. You sent it to my boss. She went quiet, then said very small, I thought she'd get the joke. She's so sharp. She almost sent flowers to my mother. That would have been canon, she said weakly. I pictured her face the way I always do when I'm about to say something I'll regret, the childhood version missing 2 front teeth. I swallowed the oldest words, you're selfish, and chose newer ones I learned in therapy that hurt me. It hurt me, I said. It humiliated me. It endangered my job. You got the job, she said, and I heard the stone under the moss. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing my own name with dates beside it. The next morning I did the thing I'm paid to do for other people, damage control with dignity. I called my department into the conference room with the bad fluorescent light. I am alive, I said, holding up both hands like a woman leading a hymn. They laughed because laughter is a pressure valve. Someone hugged me and then apologized for hugging me. It was a personal matter, I said. We've addressed it. This is not untrue. Please forward any inquiries to me. And then I waited for the emails from the press that never came because the world is both cruel and big and my obituary was just one pebble on a beach of daily death. I stopped taking Jess's calls because what was left to say that didn't taste like salt. She texted, call me. P.S. I'm sorry. And then longer ones, manic paragraphs that looked like she was trying to build a bridge with pasta. We always joked about dying young, we didn't. You know how the news only cares when it's tragic, they care when it's true. This is a sign we should write our own obits. I read that phrase like a dare. I didn't reply. A week later, the hospital held the monthly leadership breakfast where everyone pretends the muffins have vitamins and the CEO says mission like a pledge. I stood at the back with a notebook. Jessa stood at the side, semi-detached, hair in a bun that meant she'd tried. When the CFO finished showing us a graph that resembled a staircase to a place called Another Quarter, my boss gestured me over. You should talk, she said, and my stomach performed Swan Lake. I got up. I don't remember the first 2 sentences. I remember the third. We will never send false news about ourselves to get the attention we wish we had, I said, and the room made that polite hum people make when truth is wearing new shoes. We will celebrate people while they are breathing. We will verify before we weep. And we will ask consent before we tell anyone's story but our own. It is a boring moral. It is mine. Out of the corner of my eye I saw Jess's shoulders inch toward her ears like a child expecting thunder. After, in the hallway, she grabbed my elbow. You humiliated me, she hissed. The flip of it took my breath. I used the passive voice, I said. You humiliated yourself. Her eyes filled in that way some people's eyes do when they are about to summon the committee of hurts from the last 15 years. You always sound like a press release, she said. You always sound like a headline, I said. Neither of us is easy to live with. She started to cry in that pretty way that earns tissues from strangers. I stood there, the worst version of myself, composed, and hated that I wasn't letting myself fold. I didn't get the job, she said. You did. I knew we had long left the obituary behind and were now in the house of our oldest argument. Me getting a thing does not take a thing away from you, I said. It feels like it does. That feeling is lying, I said. The lie makes you do mean stuff you call art. We did not fix it in a hallway where someone had taped a poster about hand hygiene at eye level. We did somehow not make it worse. I told her I had filed with HR. Her face changed like a cloud had crossed the sun. You wouldn't, she said, and I wanted to say you did, but I just nodded. They have to know, I said. This is employment. You made it legal, she said, as if I'd ruined a party by calling the police. You made it administrative, I said, and we both felt our childhood shudder and adjust. HR did what HR does, offered mediation, recommended a warning, scribbled notes in a file. I didn't want her fired. I wanted a scar she could see. They gave her a formal reprimand that tasted like cardboard and consequences. They added a performance improvement plan, which is a sentence that rearranges your sleep for a while. And then, because the hospital is a place where mercy and policy shake hands, they offered her a chance to lead a small, quiet project no one would film, a bereavement resource binder for families who leave with fewer people than they arrived with. It was either too ironic or exactly perfect. I kept walking through my days the way you do after someone points a mirror at your name. People were kinder to me in small ways that I wanted to reject and needed like bread. A nurse left me a chocolate with a note that said, "Alive looks good on you." Cal and IT sent me a playlist titled Not Dead Yet that was mostly 80s and aggressively hopeful. My boss forwarded an email from a board member, handled with grace. I printed that and slipped it into a folder labeled Evidence for Bad Days. Jessa started leaving me voicemails that were less frantic and more meek. Hey, she'd say. I'm thinking about, writing my own thing. Not for work. For me. Is that dumb? It wasn't. My therapist calls that impulse reclamation. I called her back. Write it, I said. Just don't CC my CEO. She laughed, a small, vulnerable sound I haven't heard since she was 12, and smuggled a stray kitten into our garage on a January night. Do you hate me? She asked. I hate what you did, I said. I don't hate you. How do you separate those? Every day, I said. With effort. We went to coffee. We do that even when we don't deserve each other. She arrived in sunglasses and apology. She ordered a latte and a muffin and then didn't touch the muffin, which is how I know she is either lying or telling the truth. We Saturday. The cafe had the kind of plants that forgive you for living. She exhaled. I wanted it to be big, she said. I thought if I remind them you're mortal, maybe they'll treat you like a miracle. You could have written me a note, I said. I could have, she said, and then made the face she makes when she realizes she is not the main character of the hour. I hurt you. I'm sorry. Will you teach me how to not make a story out of you? You start by not touching my name, I said. And by asking, who does this serve? She nodded. I want to be someone who serves, she said. Not someone who performs service. She grimaced, because sometimes her honesty makes her hate herself. I touched her hand. It's a practice, I said. Like the gym, but for humility. She drafted an apology to my boss. I edited it with a light hand because I wanted it to be hers, not my choreography. She wrote to HR without using the word misunderstanding. She asked the chaplain if she could sit in on the grief group, not to post about it, just to listen. The chaplain said yes because she is a person who collects the word yes and spends it on people who need work to do. Jessa put her phone in a drawer for an hour and sat with a circle of strangers who had seen obituary font for real. She called me after and cried, and I cried too, quietly into my coat sleeve while standing by the loading dock, because there is nothing like hearing your sister learn that grief is not content to make you both older and softer in the same breath. It took longer for me to stop seeing my name with a hyphen, and a year after it when I tried to sleep. Sometimes I'd jolt awake and touch the inside of my wrist in the dark to count pulse like proof. Sometimes I'd draft sentences in my head about what I wanted my real obituary to say one day. She kept showing up, mostly, which felt morbid and practical and like a little rebellion against the version that had been forced on me. Once in the shower, I practiced saying aloud, "My sister is more than her bad ideas. The way you practice a speech you hope never to give." On my first day in the new role, I wore a blazer that looks like it might file taxes for you. My boss brought me a cactus in the shape of an opinion. I moved my stapler. I printed the word consent in 12-point Times New Roman and stuck it under my keyboard where only I can see it. I put the fake obituary in a folder labeled "Do Not Use" and shoved it to the back of the drawer. I wrote myself an email with the subject line, "You are not your crisis," and scheduled it to arrive at 4:30 on Fridays for the next 8 weeks. 2 months later, a reporter called about a rumor she'd heard, something about a staff member's death that wasn't a social media stunt, HR paper trails. It was the kind of call I dread because it asks you to explain your life without making it look like a soap opera. I took a breath. "We don't comment on personnel matters," I said. "But I can speak to our values. We celebrate staff while they are with us. We ask consent before sharing personal information. We care for each other when we're hurting." She said, "Off the record." I said, "I'm the record," and she laughed and let it go because people will often do you the kindness of taking the second best sentence if you give it to them with grace. Jessa is still Jessa. She is late to yoga and early to tears. She tells stories that edge towards stealing center, and then she catches herself and falls back with a grace that is new and makes me want to send her trophies. She brings muffins to the grief group now and leaves without selfies. She started a little newsletter about small, true things that do not require anyone else's name. Books she liked, ways to carry tissues, a recipe for a salad that tastes like forgiveness. She asked me to subscribe. I said yes. She asked to read a paragraph to me over the phone. I said yes. She asked me if I wanted to write one someday. I said not yet. She said okay. The day our hospital chaplain retired, we threw her a party that smelled like tea and citrus. Jessa and I stood at the back and watched 36 people line up to say goodbye. "You know what I'll miss," the chaplain said in her little speech. "Obituaries." The room made a sound like confusion. She smiled. "On paper, they are lies we tell kindly. In our mouths, they can be thank yous. Don't wait to write them." People nodded. Jessa squeezed my hand. Later that night, she texted me, "Thank you for still being here." I wrote back, "It's my favorite trick." I sometimes take the long way home now, past the cemetery with the old maple trees. I don't go in, I drive slow like respect. If you asked me why, I'd say it's because the fake thing made me need the real. Because names on stones are a contract with time, and my sister broke a little contract between us and then did the work to write a new one. Because I am the person who answers panic with sentences for a living, and some days the sentence you need is simply, I am still here. And if you came and sat with me at my kitchen table, the one that looks like it has heard all the versions of us and stays anyway, I'd pour you tea and ask for your story like I had a right to it, and then I'd catch myself and re-ask, will you tell me? And you could say no and would have toast instead. Then maybe, if you wanted, would take out a sheet of paper and write the kind of obituary that belongs to the living. She wears a blazer and carries a protein bar. She calls her mother even when she's furious. She reads recipes and burns bread and tries again. She forgives slowly. She answers the phone when the phone is heavy. She is learning to ask before she tells. And would fold the paper and tuck it into a book we both love, and when the world tries to break into the drawer where our names are sleeping, would have a place to look, a sentence to stand on, alive. We're alive. We are not done telling ourselves how to be.